Good morning, everybody. Travis Kern here from Root and Branch Chinese Medicine in Portland's Multnomah Village. Wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today about some new Chinese medicine topics. I mentioned last week that we're in the Chinese New Year, the year of the Yin Earth Pig, which began this year, February the 5th, marking the beginning of spring. And when people are making changes, we hear this a lot in January, for example. People start making changes. They're going to start going to the gym and working out. And inevitably, people come into our shop and they want to know about herbs that can help them with weight loss, right? Everybody wants to talk about herbs that can help with weight loss. And, in not that long ago, people could very easily buy some Chinese medicine diet pill equivalents actually that used a variety of herbal extracts and herbal powders that would increase heart rate with the sort of, I think, misplaced goal that an increased heart rate would be a lot like aerobic activity and that you'd burn off calories. And then, of course, some people had adverse reactions to that, heart attack, stroke, et cetera, led to a variety of reforms around different kinds of herbal extracts and powdered concentrates. There was even some kidney failure stuff going on. And that's because people were approaching this question of herbal weight loss, quote unquote, with the wrong point of view, right? So let's think through the logic here. I'm carrying more weight around than I would like. Pretty normal. Common wisdom says, well, you need to eat less and move more, right? It's a caloric mathematics equation. And so if you eat less and you exercise more, you will lose weight. Well, that's reasonable. And for a lot of people, that is true within some limitation. That is to say, if people do increase their physical activity while also reducing their total caloric intake, they tend to see weight loss happen. If you use specialized diets, ketogenic diets, maybe you're going to go paleo, you're going to drop the grains, you're going to go on high-fat diets, whatever it is that you're going to use to attempt to lose weight more quickly, those can also be very effective. And so the question you got to ask yourself when you're approaching this life-changing point of view, right? I want to change my life, is what are you trying to achieve? Right? So if you're trying to look better in a bikini or in a Speedo, that's a goal. If you're trying to live longer, that's a goal. If you're trying to reduce some of your measurable health items like blood cholesterol, glucose levels, blood pressure, that's also a goal. And a lot of you are probably like, oh, well, I'd like to do all those things. I'd like to have, rock hard abs and also have great blood pressure and also be able to do handstands in my living room. It's okay, sure. I guess everybody would like that. I would also like to be able to shoot fireballs out of my hands. But, while I guess being a fitness guru is more likely than me becoming an X-Men, at the same time, we should ask ourselves, what's a realistic setting for our lives given the constraints that we all deal with: work, family, finances, time management, etc., right? Often in America, let's be real, we're mostly talking about beach bodies and we're not really talking about health, right? We're not. And the thing is that if you want to go into a crash diet and lose 45 pounds in 2 months, you can do that. It's going to wreck you. All right? I'm just going to shoot it straight. That is not a sustainable model for health. It's just not, right? You're not going to eat that way for the rest of your life, okay? If you did, it would likely have a variety of downstream health effects that would be problematic, okay? And let's not even get into the social justice and socio-political questions of whether or not human beings should be consuming exclusively animal protein, for example. And what does that mean for the health and wellness of the planet, of the environment, of the atmosphere, etc.? So you don't need to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders when you're approaching this question of changing your health, right? That's not required. You don't need to explore all of the impacts, but let me just put it out there and say it's more complicated than just getting your rockin' body for the summer, okay? Especially because if you don't make any sustainable changes, you're gonna end up having to rubber band between your quote-unquote rockin' bod and your winter fat layer, over and over and over again. And the strain and the trial of that is not insignificant. It's not. So what can you do? Well, you can start by asking yourself, what are sustained changes in the way that I eat that might actually improve my waistline, my measurable health items like blood cholesterol, okay? And also give me more energy, better focus, etc., etc. What are the sustained items that I can realistically do that will make me feel better, but also allow me to enjoy my life, right? Let's not forget that extremely restrictive diets often put you outside of the ability to go out to eat with friends, often put you in a position where you're constantly explaining why you can't eat that, can't have that, on a diet, etc., where your mental headspace is focused endlessly on the details of your particular situation, okay? Our goal with Chinese medicine is to reduce the amount of effort that has to be expended toward eating well by creating habits and understandings around food that generate the kind of focus, energy, and measurable health items that you're looking for, okay? So when people ask me, can Chinese medicine help with my weight loss? The answer is yes, but not because I'm gonna give you some pills that are gonna help you get skinnier faster. I also do wanna address the question of caloric intake and the simple math. It's not actually that simple. Increasingly, we see people adjusting their caloric intake and working out massively, and yet their weight gain continues, or it plateaus, but they're not shedding the pounds that they should be given the caloric energy ratio that they are theoretically participating in. And so what ends up happening is society sees a heavyweight person who's eating like salad and low-cal protein shakes and going to the gym 5 days a week, and they're not dropping pounds, and people are saying to themselves, well, they're probably sneaking Oreos at night. I mean, what's the deal? They're probably they're cheating somehow, because we have internalized this idea, frankly, this moralistic judgment idea, that if people aren't achieving their weight goals, it's because they lack willpower, that they're weak human beings. Okay, certainly a question of what you decide to put in your mouth does matter. It does, right? But that you had some bread, okay, doesn't mean that you're like a weak human being, unable to do what everyone else is doing and only eat kale smoothies so that you can have the yoga body you always hoped for. The thing is that a lot of people out there, especially Americans, Western Americans with metabolic conditions, don't do well with salads and kale shakes. They don't. I know there's this idea that if you need to start getting lean, that you need to eat a bunch of raw friggin' vegetables. That is usually not the case from a Chinese medicine point of view. One of the reasons that your body takes the calories that it does and so inefficiently utilizes them and stores them and distributes them to places that you would not like them to go is because from a Chinese medicine point of view, your digestive function, what we could broadly call metabolic digestive process, is malfunctioning. And it's malfunctioning generally because, again, from our point of view, it doesn't have enough resources. From our perspective, it's a yang-qi warmth thing. Usually people's digestions are cold, and they don't have enough essential resources, essential fire, as we call it, to break down and digest material efficiently. So what do you do then? Oh, I'm feeling fat, I'm gonna have a salad, I'm gonna give my body some raw, fibrous vegetables that I'm gonna dump into the cauldron of your stomach, whose water is tepid and not boiling, and now your body's gonna have to use even more resources to try and break down those raw fibrous materials, and it's gonna do a crappy job of it, no pun intended. It's gonna do a crappy job. It's been doing a crappy job when you're eating all of the things you're eating because it doesn't have enough resources to work with. So now you're asking it to work harder, still without giving it what it needs. And what do you end up with? You end up with inefficient digestion that places calories in places it ought not, that stores it for later when maybe it has more energy to actually do what it needs to do. You end up with strange digestive motility where you end up either really constipated or with really loose stool. feeling bloated, gassy. The incidence of irritable bowel syndrome skyrockets. People feel like they have low energy, they can't focus. All of these things are a downstream byproduct of weak digestion that is often exacerbated, hear me now, made worse by eating salads and smoothies and things that are cold and raw. Now, this doesn't apply to everyone, of course, right? Human bodies are unique, people's situations are unique, but the vast majority of the people that I see in clinic dealing with these issues and asking these questions and concerned about their weight gain have fundamental weaknesses of digestion that are made worse by cold raw foods and lots of raw vegetables. Now take those same exact things, vegetables, which are awesome by the way, and steam them, roast them, lightly